I don't know how many of you actually know about Brian Statham other than the fact that one of the ends is named after him. I'm a little older than some of you here, and I grew up. My first learnings of cricket were through the radio, listening to commentary about international cricket, other than occasional test matches. We had very few of them those days. Was to really listen to English county matches or follow it on the newspaper. And for me, the moment we said Old Trafford, Lancashire, the first name which came to my mind was Brian Statham. I didn't know till I came here that one of the ends was named after him. And I was even more pleased to discover that the other end was named after a person who I once, in a rapid fire, was asked 5 cricketers I admired the most in the world, and Jimmy Anderson is one. It was, for me, someone who can take that load over such a long period. I'm beginning to identify with So it's really, wonderful to be here. And of course, in India, we all know this as a place where Tendulkar's first century happened. And I was so glad today you brought up Farooq Engineer. Because again, like anything in life, one needs to remind people of talent, of greatness, of great moments. And he was someone really special. In fact, they would say in India that when Farooq Engineer appealed, 120,000 other people did, and you got the decision you wanted. But there are many other associations really with Old Trafford. I won't talk of recent matches or Stuart Broad and India. There are some other memories there. But one of them is the World Cup in 83. And I had the pleasure some months ago of releasing the memoirs of Mahinda Ramana, who was the vice captain of that team. And many members of that 83 team turned up for that occasion. Both the book itself and the talk, the conversation that followed, there was so much one learned about what was happening on the field, in the dressing room, and it reminded me of politics. That, you wanted to know really how did that decision get to be taken? What was in people's minds when they took that particular course? And I've always been fascinated by the analogy, by the connection between sports and diplomacy, sports and politics. I think there is a discipline there, there's a diligence there, there's a creativity there, which is not dissimilar. So in many ways, I want to say, for me, it's really a great pleasure that we could follow up the formal inauguration of the consulate today by coming here to Old Trafford to celebrate it. My visit, this is my first visit to Manchester, would have been incomplete without coming to Old Trafford. So I want to say that. Now, a few words about the consulate, which is the real business. So, there are 3 big priorities of the Modi government. And in an interesting way, they intersect in the establishment of the consulate. One is the care and concern and the bonding that we have built with the Indian community abroad. The community has been there for a long time. Governments have come and gone in India. But I can really say this, and I say this with all sincerity as someone who's been in the field of foreign policy now for 5 decades. I don't think any Prime Minister has invested as much in the relationship with the diaspora as Narendra Modi has. And the importance, the concern, the value that we put on the diaspora as it connects to the world, this wonderful term living rich, I think is something really extraordinary. And it's not just an emotion. I think there is a deep understanding behind that. An understanding that in many ways it is the diaspora which shapes the image of India across the world. I often tell people when you go out of India and you talk about your country, they don't think of it in terms of a book they read, maybe they do a bit, or a place, something they remember from the geography or history lesson. I think they often and increasingly think of it as a person living. They put a face to it. They put an experience to it. And when I first started out in the world of diplomacy, this was not either the footprint of India or the image of India. And I believe there's a connection between it. And when I see this relationship in particular, I really today want to applaud the contribution of the Indian community to building the relationship with India. The diaspora is one priority. The other thinking has really been in the field of trade. That trade in a larger sense, trade, technology, exchanges of people. That we today understand the importance of globalizing. We're not always happy at the terms of globalization. We would like to make it fairer. But at the end of the day, for us, the world is more full of opportunities than of challenges. When India looks at the world, it looks at the world confidently. That may not always be the case for everybody else, but that's their problem. So what we want to do really is deal more with the world. Promote mobility, promote trade, promote investment, promote students, promote tourism, any form of exchanges, promote airline flights. So it was very interesting last year when we were working on the manifesto for the election. We actually had a significant part of it devoted to foreign policy. And in fact, a very explicit mention that we would increase the number of consulates and embassies across the world. So, in many ways, today's function is a promise that we have delivered not just to the community, but a promise that we have delivered to ourselves, that we will build a more globalized India, we will build a more connected India, we will build an India which values the contribution that the Indian community brought can make. The third trend, the intersection between the three, the diaspora, the trade, is actually our relationship with India. That it is a relationship rooted in history. That history is a very complex history, all of you understand that. But I think in any heritage, the smart, sensible people, in any relationship, it applies to interpersonal relations as well. Every big, deep, important relationship is a mixed one. I think it's important to pick on the good side, look for the possibilities there. I'm not saying that one doesn't deal with the problems. I think that they need to be addressed. That will and should happen. But overall, I think when we look at the relationship with the United Kingdom, it is a relationship that we believe has immense potential actually to grow, to deepen. In fact, when we see the direction of the world today, I would say that the case for deepening these ties gets stronger, not weaker. And one current expression of that is the sort of accelerated effort that we are putting in the free trade agreement. So we've just had a round of discussions with Minister Reynolds when he was in India. It was, I think, the first after the Starmer government came to power in the UK. And I am today cautiously optimistic about the prospects. I'm cautious about everything in public, so I think please use the other word as the operative one. So I do think when we consider geopolitics, consider relationships, consider who are and will be our key partners in the coming days, give the due weightage to trade, to other forms of exchanges, and then factor in the difference that the diaspora can make, I think A plus B plus C leads to the consulate in Manchester. Now, in Manchester, of course, we see very much, there's already a very fertile ground to build this relationship further. I think the Manchester-India partnership has done well over the last decade. I applaud those who have led it and given it shape. The community itself has grown in numbers. I know that there are some big investments here by Indian companies, as indeed there are by Indian community, people of Indian origin here. Growing number of students. I know some universities in particular have a certain, I would say, connect with Indian students and Indian businesses. We would like to see that group. I would even go to say that we would like universities from here, and Deputy PM, I'm looking at you as I say that. I would like universities from here to actually find ways of setting up a campus or find other ways of collaborating by setting up a presence in India. That is today possible under our new education policy. We're beginning to get some universities have come in, and I think if we have Indian students here and a university from Manchester in India, I cannot think of a better way really of connecting up there. So this time I give you an ask. So I have delivered almost on the two asks which you made, which was the consulate and the flight. So I assure you that the university will be an even greater reason to really strengthen our action. Finally, we all know today is International Women's Day, and again, my thoughts go to sports and women. We have two wonderful sports people today with us, Olivia and Fee. I was very pleased to meet them. I think we got a very nice picture up there on the cricketing field. But I also would want all of you to appreciate that when we talk about changes in India, both sports and, I would say gender, women issues are also changing in India, and sometimes they're changing together. I had spoken during the inauguration of the consulate about some of the campaigns which were launched, including about girls' education in India. Two other campaigns which have actually got enormous traction in the last decade. One is something called Hello India, which is like a sports initiative to encourage students to, and young people, to get out of the classrooms and workplaces and get physically more active and do that. And the second is Fitness India, Fit India, which is, it doesn't, it's not just young people who need to be fit, everybody needs to be fit. And we have a Prime Minister who obviously sets the example himself. So we've seen really these campaigns take root. But what these campaigns, like any campaign, it requires iconic figures to lead. And it's, I think, been very heartening and very inspirational that many of them actually have been our women sports persons. There could be a badminton star, there could be a cricket captain, and the net impact of that. I think just like health or nutrition have ripple impact, education has a big ripple impact. Education helps health, education helps nutrition, so does sports. So sports is not just about personal discipline and motivation and that ability to compete. I think a fitter country, a more sports-focused country, is a healthier country in many ways. It's a far more, I would say, in terms of the spirit and morale and the outlook of society. I think it makes a very big difference. So on continuing that train of thought on International Women's Day, I've spoken about the social campaigns we have launched. But if one looks today, even in the business world, we in India we give these small loans to people. These are unsecured loans to help them start a business. It runs really to tens of millions of beneficiaries. And I think about 70% of them are actually given to women. And it's astonishing today how good the repayment numbers are for these unsecured loans that we give. We give loans even to street vendors. And it's very, I think there's a lesson in that, which is when actually a government trusts people, the people live up to that trust. And sometimes maybe, we need to be less cynical about economic policies and much more social and much more, I would say, emotionally invested in how we want to build a country. We see the change as well in the parliament. We legislated 2 years before that 1/3 of the seats in our elected legislatures, directly elected legislatures, would be for women. And we regard that as a very important step in giving them a voice in national policy making. We have seen the entry of women in the armed forces. That again has, what would be, and today it's so common to see, I think people have even stopped commenting on that. We have even seen, in fact, a greater participation for women in house ownership. When we do social housing, and in the last decade we've done 40 million houses. So, and it's again part of the SOP for housing that the woman of the house is an equal owner in the ownership of the house. So there is a lot that is happening in India. Some of it also gets reflected in our relationships abroad. One of the developments with respect to the UK incidentally is we set up centers to help those in difficulties. It is called Pravasi Bharatiya Sahayata Kendras. And the first one which we are doing actually in this part of the world is in the UK. I think we are officially inaugurating it today or maybe by saying and it's fitting that we're doing it on Women's Day because actually most of the people who use these facilities are actually women. So my message really to you today is that this is not just an office we have opened. It is really an investment in a relationship on which we have very hard goals. It is an expression today of the value in which we hold the Indian community. It reflects our desire to serve the community better. We hope it would become a magnet to connect India and Manchester and the Greater Manchester region more deeply. We certainly hope that it would spur more trade and investment and education and technology related activities. And most of all, we know that it will be an important step in a deeper partnership with the United Kingdom. So I thank you all again today for joining us on this occasion. And I'm confident we have wonderful matches, both women's and men's, in July this year. I have to find some reason to try to come back at that time. I'll do my best. It's not always be easy. But yes. So I'm counting on that's perhaps my second last. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for those inspiring and vital words regarding strengthening partnership between our two countries. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, as we celebrate the opening of the
Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, Minister Catherine West, Deputy Mayor, High Commissioner, our host, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I still can't believe I'm standing at the Old Trafford. I don't know how many of you actually know about Brian Statham other than the fact that one of the ends is named after him. I'm a little older than some of you here, and I grew up. My first learnings of cricket were through the radio, listening to commentary about international cricket, other than occasional test matches. We had very few of them those days. Was to really listen to English county matches or follow it on the newspaper. And for me, the moment we said Old Trafford, Lancashire, the first name which came to my mind was Brian Statham. I didn't know till I came here that one of the ends was named after him. And I was even more pleased to discover that the other end was named after a person who I once, in a rapid fire was asked 5 cricketers I admired the most in the world, and Jimmy Anderson is one. It was, for me, someone who can take that load over such a long period. I'm beginning to identify with that. So it's really, wonderful to be here. And of course, in India, we all know this as a place where Tendulkar's first century happened. And I was so glad today you brought up Farooq Engineer. Because again, like anything in life, one needs to remind people of talent, of greatness, of great moments. And he was someone really special. In fact, they would say in India that when Farooq Engineer